viewers, welcome to our channel. Today Dr. Harita is with us, Chief Dietitian at Apollo Hospitals, Jubilee Hills. Hello doctor.
Hello.
Doctor, is milk good for diabetic patient?
So milk has taken a lot of beating, and many a times I have seen a lot of advice being given that if you're a diabetic, don't have milk. But if you look at the requirements of say calcium requirements for diabetics, they are pretty much the same as for normal individual. Like you and I need calcium, even if you're a diabetic, you still continue to need the calcium. And one of our best sources of calcium intake comes from milk and milk products, whether you are having it from curd, buttermilk, direct as milk, or you have some milk product made out of milk, and therefore milk is good. One needs to consume. And also the concept of taking skim milk is also going now. To have a regular 3%, 6% milk, because the fat that is there allows the vitamin D, the little vitamin D which is present, to be absorbed, and therefore a good combination of both vitamin D and calcium are required to keep our bones healthy and strong.
So can diabetic eat oranges?
Yes, as I said, diabetics can eat all kinds of fruits, and orange is one of the best fruit that you can consume because it's rich in fiber. It's got very little calories per se, and it does not have so much of fructose which will increase your blood glucose. So if you love eating your oranges when they are seasonally available, please consume your oranges. With a word of caution that we are not saying orange juice. Don't consume the juice, because you take 4 oranges to get 1 glass of juice, and you're just taking the glucose content from the fruit and throwing away the most important part, that is the fiber. The fiber in the orange will help you bring down your sugar levels, keep your stomach clean, prevent constipation, bring down your cholesterol, so many advantages.
Doctor, how many apples can a diabetic patient eat per day?
Yeah, per se fruits are rich in fructose, so you definitely can consume 2 fruits per day, especially if your sugars are well maintained. Only in eventuality where we are struggling to maintain the blood sugars, we say go slow on them, but apple is a safe fruit to have. Having said that, you shouldn't be sticking to apple all your life or all throughout the year, and therefore bring in as many variations. You can eat watermelon, muskmelon, you can eat your kiwis, you can eat strawberries, so many different kinds of fruits. So whenever these fruits are available, in whatever season they are available, feel free to consume those fruits.
Is watermelon bad for a diabetic?
Watermelon is again 90% water and a little bit of fructose that may be there. So it is also a very filling fruit. When you have watermelon, it kind of fills you, hydrates you, and the red color also gives you a lot of vitamin A content. So yes, diabetics can consume watermelon, consume it in the form of a whole fruit, which is more filling rather than in the form of a juice.
Okay. Doctor, cheese okay for diabetic patients?
Cheese is, if you look at the proportion of protein and fat that it has 50% protein and 50% fat. So just like all of us, should consume it in limited quantities. So diabetics should also consume it in limited quantities. You cannot overdo it. You can have it in your diet occasionally, but you cannot overdo it, simply because it has a very high fat content. The milk fat which is there is quite high, and it is all saturated fat. So it's not very liberally to be consumed, but if it is just to add taste to the food, it is there occasionally in your diet, then that's quite usable. And it's like that for all of us, right? Whether diabetic or not.
Okay. Doctor, can diabetic patients eat pizza and burger?
Yeah, so pizza and burgers comes in the category of junk food. And essentially for diabetics or even for normal healthy individuals, if you eat one pizza at a meal, at that moment you feel full. But since it is made out of maida and it does not have enough fiber in the food, it gets digested very fast. So quickly in another 2 hours you are hungry again, and then again you want to eat something. So why are we saying no pizza, no burger as a meal especially, is that it is made out of maida, which is a refined flour. It does not have enough fiber, so gets digested very very quickly, and therefore would make you eat more number of calories and repeated number of times as compared to you eating a regular normal meal. So occasionally if you're eating, that's okay, but if that's your daily pattern, weekly 2 to 3 times that's what you're eating, you will definitely be consuming far more calories than what you would eat in a complete meal. Say for example, you're eating normal thali, you know, where there's roti and rice and stuff like that, a regular Indian thali, yeah, it's tough to consume anything more than 400 to 500 calories. At the same time, if you're consuming one medium sized pizza, it's very easy to consume one medium sized pizza, and that would be easily 700 to 750 calories. So calorie wise you will be consuming large quantity, but you're again hungry, and therefore the likelihood of consuming more quantity or more calories additionally for a diabetic, and therefore hugely discouraged to eat that as a meal.
Okay. Doctor, why is brown rice is better than white rice, particularly diabetic patients?
So basically the first difference between white rice and brown rice is white rice is completely polished, and brown rice is unpolished. So it not only has higher amount of fiber, it will also have the wheat germ intact, and wheat germ is a powerhouse of nutrients, especially the B vitamins. So when we are looking for water soluble or the B complex vitamins like thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, all these are present in the wheat germ. So any grain when it is unpolished, it will have higher content of B complex vitamins. And why are they important? Because they help us digest that wheat that we are eating, or help us assimilate the energy that is that we are getting from the wheat that we eat or the rice that we eat. And therefore unpolished rice or brown rice is good, and it makes you, not only that, it makes you eat lesser quantity. When you see, if you and I experiment with it also, white rice we will eat more quantity, so we will get more carbohydrates. At the same meal with the same vegetables, if you give brown rice, we will eat lesser quantity also. So you will eat lesser quantity, so lesser carbs. At the same time, you get an additional benefit of getting fiber and all the B complex nutrients that are required to assimilate these carbohydrates in our meal.
Doctor, is honey good for diabetic patients?
Yeah, I think this is a very common myth which is there, that if I can't consume sugar, I consume jaggery or consume honey. But ideally, even honey has a form of sugar which is fructose, and if you look at the end product as calories, it provides the same amount of calories. So you cannot replace 100% of your sugar needs with your honey needs just because of thinking that honey is good for diabetes.
Doctor, can you explain how diabetes can be prevented?
So you're basically asking how can we prevent diabetes. So yes, that is the most relevant thing to understand, because today with the genetic makeup that we have and the lifestyle that we have, all of us are very sedentary, and this kind of a lifestyle where we are not doing activity, eating the wrong food, not sleeping at the right time and not sleeping enough in the first place, all of us are contributing to the non-communicable disorders, of which diabetes is at the topmost. So even before we get diabetes, we should definitely try and avoid it, prevent it as much as possible. Especially if we have a family history of it. That means a parent has it, grandparent has it, aunt has it, uncle has it. That is a red flag for us to know that okay, I might get it, and therefore I should do everything possible to prevent it in future. So if you're already 25-30-year-old, you know that there is a possibility of getting it, and now people are getting it younger and younger by the day. We have seen 29-year-old, 26-year-old. Those who have a family history are more susceptible to it. So in prevention there is no medicine, and therefore prevention is all about correcting your lifestyle, correcting your eating patterns, bringing certain level of discipline in your meal timings, and also about what you eat at meal timings. Eating junk is common. Wanting to party is very common. Everybody wants to have sweets. It's not about completely avoiding them, but it is, keeping them very occasional. Occasionally, when you're having a festival at home or you're having a party once in a while, all this happens once a month, it seems fair enough. But if this is happening too frequently, once in a week there is a party at home, you're going out and eating, there's a party happening at office, all this becomes too often, and that's the scenario today. Almost 2 to 3 times a week people are going out and eating or bringing food from outside and eating, and all of this is contributing to poor balanced meals that they consume compared to the traditional pattern. Unless there is a festival or something, most of it is simple balanced meal which you're eating, home cooked meal which you're eating. So if you're looking at prevention, and if your lifestyle is reflecting something like this, that you're constantly eating outside and you're on the other side thinking about prevention, the first step is to switch to home food, switch to appropriate and fixed meal timings, and bring about some kind of a physical activity in your daily life. In 24 hours you evaluate whether at least for an hour or two are you physically active. If not, you incorporate any kind of a physical activity which you enjoy. It could be a game, it could be swimming, it could be going to the gym, it could be a aerobic class, a Zumba class, anything that you enjoy, or a simple walk in the park and covering about 4 to 5 kilometers. But this much of physical activity is mandatory, because the rest of the time, rest of the 23 hours, we are all very, very sedentary. We are sitting in our car, we are sitting in the office, we are at home we are sitting, not much of physically strenuous activity that we do. And the last but not the least is sleep hours. If you are able to sleep at least 7 to 8 hours a day and give your body that rest, it is not going into that kind of a stressful situation which would precipitate conditions which I have a family history of. So I am genetically prone to it. If I add sleeplessness, if I add poor lifestyle, if I add sedentary lifestyle, if I add poor eating habits, it precipitates at a very young age, and this is a well known fact. And therefore we can use lifestyle as a pill, as a medicine, as a corrective measure, and as a preventive measure to prevent all these non-communicable disorders.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks for the information. I hope you like this video. If you like it, please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. Thank you.